Let's think about the most incredible buildings in the world for a second. Today, in this explainer, we are diving into the absolutely staggering 300-year history of the Mughal Empire. But we're not just going to rattle off dry historical records, right? Instead, we're going to read the history of this massive, incredibly powerful South Asian dynasty through the actual physical structures they left behind. We're going to trace their violent rise, zero in on their spectacular golden age of monuments, and chart their ultimate downfall, literally by looking at the stones, the marble, and the monuments they placed upon the earth. It is an amazing story full of unimaginable wealth, brutal conflict, and just absolute artistic genius.
Okay, let's dive right into our blueprint for today. We'll start with their enduring stone legacy. Check out how they laid the empire's foundation, spend some real time in that breathtaking golden age of monuments, watch as the whole thing begins to fracture, and finally, look at the echoes in the architecture that we can still see today.
Section 1. The Enduring Stone Legacy.
Now, what's really fascinating here is that while the political machinery of the Mughal Empire is totally gone, their legacy maps perfectly across a dramatic 300-year timeline. Think of this as our mental map. We kick things off in 1526 with Babur's initial conquest. We move up to Akbar's vast expansion in 1556, and then right there in the middle, we hit the absolute peak, Shah Jahan's golden age in 1628. But, gravity always pulls things back down. By 1658, Aurangzeb's wars start draining the empire, triggering a long decline that finally hits rock bottom in 1857 with the fall of Bahadur Shah Zafar.
Section 2. Laying the Empire's Foundation.
So, before you can build a masterpiece, you absolutely have to lay the first stone. And for the Mughals, that very first stone was laid by Babur. Born in 1483 in what is now Uzbekistan, Babur carried some serious conqueror DNA. I mean, he claimed descent from Timur on his father's side and Genghis Khan through his mother's line. After losing his kingdom in Fergana and seizing Kabul, he set his sights on northern India. In 1526, at the First Battle of Panipat, he faced off against Sultan Ibrahim Lodi. Now, Babur had a much smaller army, but he brought something completely revolutionary to the battlefield: intense discipline, field artillery, and gunpowder. This brilliant tactical advantage absolutely shattered the larger Lodi army, wiped out the Delhi Sultanate, and officially established the Mughal Empire.
And this brilliantly illustrates the absolute whiplash of early Mughal rule. After Babur dies, his son Humayun inherits the empire in 1530, and to say his reign was turbulent is honestly an understatement. Just look at this chaotic journey. He inherits the whole empire, immediately gets completely crushed by Sher Shah Suri, and is forced into exile, literally loses it all. Years go by, but eventually, with Persian support, he claws his way back and manages to recapture Delhi in 1555. He finally has his empire back. And then he dies shortly afterward in a tragic accident. It was a wildly chaotic, incredibly fragile time for the young dynasty.
So, the foundation was shaky, to say the least, until Humayun's young son Akbar took the throne in 1556. Guided initially by his guardian Bayram Khan, Akbar secures a massive victory at the Second Battle of Panipat. But here's the thing. Akbar was so much more than just a conqueror. He was a master state builder with a brilliant dual focus. On the military side, he expanded aggressively across northern and central India and formed these absolutely crucial alliances with Rajput rulers. But on the cultural side, he totally reformed the administration, promoted trade, abolished the controversial jizya tax, and actively encouraged religious dialogue. He was the one who finally stabilized the foundation. He built the exact structural stability required for a future golden age to even be possible.
Building right on top of Akbar's immense success, his son Jahangir takes over in 1605. Jahangir's reign really acted as this critical cultural stepping stone. He strengthened the empire, focusing heavily on justice, art, and painting. But there is a subtle detail here that is historically massive. During his reign, Jahangir granted the English East India Company permission to establish their very first trading posts in India. While it seemed like just a simple, mundane trade agreement at the time, this laid the quiet groundwork for future British influence that would eventually swallow the entire empire whole. Section 3. The Golden Age of Monuments.
Let's move forward and see how all of this builds to our main focus today. The scaffolding is secure. The wealth is just unimaginable. And with the arrival of Emperor Shah Jahan in 1628, the empire hits its absolute artistic climax. If Akbar was the practical administrator, Shah Jahan was the visionary architect. He triggered an explosion of artistic output that the world had rarely seen, taking the vast, endless resources of this perfectly stabilized empire and pouring them directly into magnificent, towering structures. This right here, this is the undisputed golden age of monuments. Let's zoom in on this for a second, because the sheer volume and permanence of the masterpieces commissioned during this specific era is just staggering. First, you have the Taj Mahal, this ethereal masterpiece of white marble that is universally considered one of the greatest architectural achievements in all of human history. Then, the Red Fort in Delhi, a colossal, imposing complex that served as the beating heart of Mughal power. And the Jama Masjid, an absolute engineering marvel of symmetry and scale. Shah Jahan essentially transformed unimaginable wealth into physical eternity. This era wasn't just about ruling a territory, it elevated human artistry to a level that literally changed the world. Section 4. The empire begins to fracture. But as you might guess, magnificent monuments are incredibly expensive to build, and maintaining a sprawling empire is even more expensive. So the crucial point is this fatal pivot right here. After a really fierce war of succession, Aurangzeb takes the throne in 1658, and man, the contrast is stark. While Shah Jahan was all about architecture and the golden age of art, Aurangzeb pivots sharply toward endless military expansion. And yes, sure, he pushed the empire to its absolute greatest territorial extent, but it came at a terrible, terrible cost. He got bogged down in prolonged wars and increasing conflicts with regional powers. These endless campaigns placed enormous, crushing financial pressure on the very administration that Akbar had so carefully built. When Aurangzeb finally died in 1707, the scaffolding snapped. The physical collapse of the empire's power structure happened slowly at first, and then all at once. Successive emperors desperately struggled to maintain control, but the finances were completely drained. You start seeing powerful regional kingdoms, like the Marathas, the Sikhs, and the Rajputs, emerging and carving out their own territories. And hey, remember those little trading posts Jahangir granted way back when? Well, the British East India Company used all this internal chaos to rapidly expand its influence, systematically dismantling Mughal control from the outside in. Section 5. Echoes in the architecture. So, the rulers eventually fell and the military was defeated. 1857 is a defining number in Indian history. This was the year of the massive Indian rebellion against British rule. The very last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar, stepped up to act as a symbolic leader for the uprising, but it was suppressed. After the rebellion failed, the British exiled Bahadur Shah Zafar to Rangoon in present-day Myanmar, where he eventually died in 1862. That exile marked the definitive final end of the Mughal dynasty. The political empire was officially gone, replaced by direct British rule. But, as this quote beautifully reminds us, they are never truly gone, as long as their monuments stand. The Mughals left this incredible lasting legacy in art, literature, gardens, and cuisine, but above all, it's that golden age of architecture. When you look at photos of the Taj Mahal, the Red Fort, Fatehpur Sikri, or Humayun's tomb today, you aren't just looking at pretty buildings. You are looking directly at the echoes of a 300-year dramatic history. You are seeing the raw ambition of Babur, the brilliant administration of Akbar, the unparalleled artistic genius of Shah Jahan, and even the fractured legacy of Aurangzeb. All of it permanently written in enduring stone. Which leaves us with a really fascinating thought to consider as we wrap up today. The architects of the Mughal Golden Age achieved a physical permanence that entirely outlasted their own bloodline. The rulers are long gone, but their magnificent monuments remain as literal wonders of the world. It really begs the question, when you look around at the major powers of our world today, what modern empires will leave a legacy written in stone? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this completely changes how you view the incredible monuments of the Mughal Empire.